So you know how sometimes there's a TV show that has a giant mystery around it, and you keep spending all this time wondering what the mystery's gonna be and what the answer's gonna be, and you keep theorizing and coming up with so many ideas, and then you finally get revealed and it's disappointing? This is not that show. Oh my god. Wow, this was the episode where I said we were probably going to have this happen. I said we were probably going to have it happen where there's going to be an episode, like the penultimate episode was going to be nothing but like a giant flashback of how we got here. And that's what this was. And it is nothing but a giant therapy session mixed with like Wanda's worst hits. Like, I don't want to say her greatest hits.
Most memorable, I guess.
Well, I mean, that implies that's things that we've seen before.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, it's her lowest moments, and we have spent every single episode of this show, of us doing the post-Geekout reactions for WandaVision, every single one of our little recaps have been us going, yeah, man, Wanda's been through a lot of stuff. I mean, her family died, her brother died, her husband died, like the entire world is blaming her for the Sokovia Accord, like everything that could go wrong in her life has gone wrong. And yeah, this is the episode where they come in here and go, yeah, let's actually like see that stuff happen. And they're getting so deep with every single bit of this, and it's a combination of the director and the cinematographer and the writers all just coming up with like the perfect scene and everything for it. But also Elizabeth Olsen is just acting her butt off in these scenes. The dog also really wants attention. So you probably heard her sniffing and snorting down there.
And panting.
Yeah, geez, buddy. Oh, you just couldn't wait until we were done. She doesn't need to go outside. She doesn't need food or anything. She just wants attention is all.
Yeah.
Well, there, now you have thousands of people watching you, Peach. Anywho. Oh, it's a good thing you all love this dog. But yeah, it is nothing but just character exploration. And it's something that, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a lot of people have said, like, oh, well, how come we didn't get to see this? How come we didn't get to see this? And I understand why people criticize the MCU for stuff like that, but I've always been like, yeah, because we only get like 2-3 movies a year max. We didn't even start getting 3 movies a year until recently, and they kind of have to focus on these things. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't really get to see, and I understand that kind of sucks. And this is the episode that came in here when, here's all the stuff you didn't get to see. Here's all the in-between stuff. And the in-between stuff is so good. This entire episode is nothing but character exploration. And what I love about this is that we have spent... Well, this is episode 8, so we spent 7 episodes going, could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be this? It's Mephisto. It's gotta be Mephisto. It's got to be Mephisto. Or maybe it's Mojo. Maybe there's the X-Men coming in here. Is this a cross-dimensional thing? It's Nightmare. It's gotta be Nightmare, everybody. And this episode, they came in here and went, you wanna know what it really is? It's that Wanda has suffered a lot of trauma within her life, and no one person can possibly handle all of that, and eventually a person is going to break underneath that weight, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Oh, well, that's way sadder. That's upsetting. So this isn't like a big superhero thing where they're gonna like punch a thing or anything. This is just really like sad drama. Oh, wow. And man, I mean, there's still like little like Easter egg things in here about like, oh, what could this be coming up? And we will get into that. But I love that they went with this. This to me is so freaking bold that it wasn't, you know, yeah, there is some manipulation going on behind the scenes. Like in this episode, we got to see what actually happened with Wanda at S.W.O.R.D. with Vision. And we got to see that General What's-His-Face, who I won't remember, we got to see that, hey, Wanda didn't actually steal the Vision's body, which, man, this is going to be such a weird thing, but we kept having to theorize that, okay, maybe she's under someone's control, because Wanda just breaking into a government agency and like stealing Vision, like you could understand her doing it. You absolutely could understand her doing it, but it's like, yeah, that's you, like, kind of doing like a supervillain move, like, you know, I mean, again, you would understand if she did it, but that's one of the things that makes good supervillains. You can go, well, I understand how you got to this point, it's still wrong what you did. We find that she did not do that. She did not steal the body. She came in there ready to kick some ass, but then the intro was like, yeah, but I can't just come in here and steal the body. Go on, Peach, what do you want to do? I keep seeing her over there like, can I jump into his lap now? And she's jumping up right now. Here.
Oh, Peach.
All right.
But, like, the reason why wanted to try to break in the first place is because she wanted to bury Vision's body.
And this is one of the things that I really like about this moment in here is that she just wants to bury him. It's her husband. She loves him. He deserves to be buried. Which, by the way, I really wish we'd seen like some kind of a wedding or something. Like even if it was like, you know, they're on the run from the government during the Sokovia Accord thing, so of course they couldn't like just bury the body. I mean, of course they couldn't get married. But like she keeps kind of referring to him as her husband, so I keep having this thought like, did you actually like do that? Or I mean, like, in all honesty, he's a robot. Really, you could just say we're married now and it counts. Like that's, I mean. What government agency are you going to go up to and go like, yeah, we're going to go to the courthouse and get married to the robots? Like, no, I think you guys are above the law on this one.
I'm just imagining Pirates of the Caribbean where like Will and Elizabeth.
Oh God damn!
We're getting married during like the sword fight on the ship, so it's like.
Again, I'd like to remind all those people out there who, whenever they criticize me because I say that the MCU has not had a bad movie, they've had some mediocre movies, but they have not had a bad movie. Y'all need to watch more movies because you just bring that up right now. It's like, wow, I'm thinking of the worst things that ever happened in the MCU, and none of them are as cringeworthy as that. Anywho.
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing they didn't show that then.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, I love that she goes there and she's like, I just want to bury him. And here's the thing, he's clearly a villain. We all know he's a villain. We all know he's a bad guy. And we all know he's doing like maybe some level of manipulation in here. But General, what's his name? He does go up to her and he makes a good point of like, this is the most sophisticated weapon on the planet and you're going to bury it in the ground. Like you do that and you know every freaking supervillain with a thing against the Avengers are going to be like standing in line with a shovel. Like you can't just put him in the ground. Like, yeah, he's got a point. You can't just do that. Granted, everybody on Earth watching this episode is like, so you have evil intentions yourself. Like, obviously you're going to do something bad with Vision. We all know you're going to do it. But he does make a good point. Like, you can't just bury the Vision in the ground. It can't happen. But yeah, that moment there of her, like, and you've seen how much Vision has meant to her. Because again, that has been one of those things that like you only get real little glimpses of it. Like you get nothing of an Age of Ultron because the Vision is created and then you gotta immediately go on to fight Ultron. But then in Civil War, you get like little moments of like, oh, you guys do have a thing going on. Like, because there's that moment where he just like casually walks into Wanda's room and is like shocked to see, I think it's been years since I've seen it, but he's shocked to see Steve is in the room. I think it's what's happening. And you get that sense of like, oh, he just casually walks in here whenever he wants. And I love that we see a scene in here that is like a few days after they got back from Sokovia. After they got back from the big battle in Age of Ultron, and it's Wanda just sitting there watching sitcoms, and then Vision, like you can tell it's the first time he's walked in there, because he still doesn't understand he's supposed to like knock or anything. And they just have this conversation and oh my God, I've seen so many people online talking about like, yeah, I've lost a lot of people in my life. This line really hit me hard. And I was like, wow, it's incredible that this line has had that impact on people.
Like, what is grief but the perseverance of love?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
That's good. That is some good stuff. Ooh, that's good. That is a good line right there. And it's in that moment that like you can look at Vision and like, how can anyone not love this guy? How can anyone not fall in love with the Vision after he like drops some knowledge like that? Like Vision is honestly, after this season, like nothing against Wanda, but Wanda is a very like flawed character, and that's one of the things that makes her so interesting. Like flawed doesn't mean badly written character. Flawed means she's a character with human problems, and that's what makes her so freaking good as a character. But if you want to ask me like who's the most likable character in the MCU, I'm like, I think it might be Vision. Vision, like this guy has got like all the knowledge, but he's not like an asshole about like Tony Stark. Like he's like this cuddly, warm like therapist dude who just comes to you in your time of need. It's just like, here's all the knowledge that this Mind Stone is giving. Which that's another thing, you gotta think about the fact that he's got the Mind Stone there, so it's like, Well, of course he's got the right thing to say. He's got access to all knowledge in the universe, probably.
And it's like, it's funny, like, how he's so warm and friendly, yet he's a robot. So it's like, people who don't really know him don't really understand that part of him because, you know, the big military guy, he doesn't really understand that Vision has a personality and it's
a
like,
heart to him.
Yes, exactly.
He's not the Tin Man.
He just he just sees him as like this machine that can be reassembled and reused. And it's really fucked up.
It's really messed up, yeah. And there is that moment from a couple episodes ago when he's breaking out of the barrier. And we're going to come back to this in a moment, but there's a moment he's breaking out of the barrier, and with everything that's happened to him, still the thing that he is yelling at the military people is, please, you have to help the people. And there's a moment in there in which I was thinking about Vision. I've honestly thought about this over the course of a couple of days now, of why is Vision so determined to get help for the people? Because Vision, like, he was just created as a robot and he's like, well, I guess I'll go out and I'll help people. And I was like, what really is his motivation to help people after everything that he's been through? And then, like, I had that moment to stop and had to, like, realize, like, that is the wrong question. The wrong question that, and I think that this is something that comes from a lot of, like, modern day superhero stuff, a lot of modern day, like, the, I don't want to say grunginess because that's more of a 90s thing, but like the dark cynicism, thank you. It comes from modern day cynicism behind a lot of characters, and especially behind what they're trying to put into a lot of superhero stuff, where we have to go, well, why on earth would he want to help people? And it's like, I love the fact that I'm watching this now and like I had to realize that is a wrong thing to ask.
Yeah.
You should not ask, why do you want to help people? It's that meme of, I don't know how to explain to you, you're supposed to care about other people. It's like, yeah, you don't need a reason to want to help people. You need reasons to not want to help people.
Yeah, don't ask why, ask why not.
Yes, it's like, that's why you have supervillains out there. It's like, they're the ones who are messed up. They're not the standard. They're the ones who are like, oh, well, this is why you want to hurt people. You should naturally want to help people. And it's like, I love that. I love that this show actually made me think about that. Because, like I said, I think that modern day films, and especially modern day superhero films, have really tried to lean into this idea of like, well, yeah, everybody's kind of an asshole at heart, so, you know, there's no reason to want to be nice to anyone. I was like, yeah, Vision, of course he doesn't need a reason. He's just... I'm going to bleep that. I don't need that wave of toxic trolls on our doorstep. I don't need that. I'm gonna bleep the hell out of that line. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, I love that moment, and like watching Vision in this scene with Wanda, I was just like, goddamn, he's just a good guy. And that's exactly what Wanda needs. Wanda just needs, like, because when you think about it, like, man, it's amazing that she's on a team with, like, Captain America and stuff, and it's like, ain't none of them going to her door and, like, asking, and, like, going, like, hey, do you need some help? I'm sure they did off-screen. I'm sure they did off-screen. Like I said, you can't see everything that's happening here. But there's a reason that she bonded with Vision. Like, Vision was the one who's like, no, I'm going to be here and bonding. And, like, seeing Vision, at this moment, he's still so, he's, like, 2 days old at this point. He doesn't know anything about, you know, stories or anything. And I love that moment of him watching TV, and he sees Hal and Malcolm in the Middle getting hurt, and he's like, I don't understand. Should someone go and like, again, he's concerned for the guy in the sitcom. He just cares. That's what he does. I love it. And I saw someone online, I think it was Gail Simone, she was asking, what is a character from the comics you never cared about until you saw them in a movie or TV show? And someone said Vision. And I went, I like Vision. Like I said, I grew up reading Avengers books. They were my favorite superhero team out there, and I always liked the Vision. This is such a better version of the Vision than anything we've ever gotten. Like, it's not even close. And I don't mean like there haven't been great written Vision stories out there, of course not. But in terms of like, okay, who's the guy you want to be a superhero? Him. That guy right there. Yeah, I love it. But speaking of the sitcom, it sounded like you were about to say something.
I was gonna say like Vision was worthy of Thor's hammer.
Oh yeah. Oh, because everybody kept was like, oh yeah, he's only lifting that because he's a machine. It's like, no, he actually genuinely cares. He's like, man, that's a great thing to look back at. Like, yeah, he lifted the hammer because it's like, no, I actually like, I want to go out there and help people. Yeah, I love that. But talking about the flashbacks, let's go back to the first one. And man, I know that I have spit out a lot of theories. I've been spitting out a lot of things like, you know, oh, maybe it is Mephisto, maybe it's Grim Reaper, maybe it's Swarm. I remember back when I thought that after episode 2. I've been throwing out a lot of theories. I will totally admit that. But in all fairness,
that's kind of what you got.
Everyone does. That's the entire point of this show. Trust me, we're going to come back and do this again for all the Marvel shows because it's been, like, so good. I don't think I'm going to be coming here with crazy theories like this for, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I doubt those episodes are going to go an hour long with our reviews. But there is one thing that I pointed like a ball player going towards the outfield. Man, I just screwed up that metaphor. I pointed like a baseball player pointing at the outfield. And I declared that's where my shot is going. I'm tired. I'm very tired.
It's been a long day.
This is my third thing that I have recorded today, everybody. This is my third thing. So sorry. But yeah, I pointed out there at the bleachers and I was like, that is going to happen. I kept saying there's going to be some flashback where we see that the only happy memory she has is of watching American sitcoms with her family in Sokovia. That is literally how this opens up. And man, and I like that it's not that, like, they actually go into kind of an explanation for it. It's not just like, oh yeah, we just get old American TV shows out here. The dad comes home and opens up the briefcase and then you see all these DVDs in there and goes, I know, I'm going to try and sell them tomorrow. And it's kind of implied that's how he's making his living, is selling like bootleg DVDs from America. And I was like, oh wow, okay, so it's actually kind of, it's more than an explanation for that. And I love when we're going into like all the details of like they're sitting down to watch it and like Wanda has her favorite and she's like season 2 episode 13 and she knows like all the American sitcom terms that Pietro doesn't know,
like shenanigans,
yeah. And I love that. Listen, Wanda's personality throughout the MCU has been, I've been through some things, and that's, you know, that is indeed something. That's something. But I like that this came in here and went, her entire personality is not, I have suffered from all of you. Her entire personality is not trauma. She has other things to her, and I like that it's sitcoms. That's such a unique thing. I really dug that, but it's not just unique, but it's also relatable. Because I saw a lot of people online just going like, yeah, I kind of feel a little bit more connected to Wanda Maximoff, because she uses entertainment and television to escape from the horrors in her life. And that's literally what she does with Westview. Westview is literally her escaping into that thing that's used for escapism. I think that that's genius. I love it. This entire show is basically commentary on trauma. Yeah. Because what Wanda is doing is she's trying to escape trauma through the exact thing that she has been using for escapism.
Also, this episode explains why Westview.
Yes, because we've been wondering that this entire time. Which, man, we had that theory about maybe it was built on top of the swamp, which I do kind of wish that had happened. But yeah, don't get me wrong. As a comic book nerd, I will still have that little bit of like, oh, it would have been cool to kind of get like this one thing in here. But that doesn't mean I think it would have been better than this. This, having the explanation just be, no, Wanda's been through things. Wanda has suffered, and she's a human being. Eventually, you're going to break under all of this stuff. And by walking us through all that and having to see step by step every single thing that has happened to her, yeah, you understand it. This entire show is, a lot of people have been saying like, oh, it's kind of based around the Avengers Disassembled and House of M storyline where Wanda had a psychological breakdown, had a mental breakdown, and she ended up killing multiple members of the Avengers and wiping out 98% of the mutants across the entire planet. This is so much better than that because those were written poorly. I almost just said bad, and I had to stop myself because I knew that wouldn't be proper grammar. But no, they were bad. They were really bad stories about the Scarlet Witch. Like, if you just want to see shit explode, yeah, fine, they worked. But if you actually were like, well, what's going through Wanda's mind and how did she actually get to this point? No, they're terrible because Michael Bendis can't write women. She's just, his entire style of writing women is like, what trauma can I put them through? Cool, done. It's like, stupid. All right, fine. Goddamn. Yeah, he's a terrible writer, everybody, and I'm tired of hiding that. So, this thing, it takes us step by step through everything that she's been through, and there's so many moments in here that I've pointed this out before, but I'm a big fan of like how the MCU kind of like brings like little tiny moments from here and like, no, to make these characters feel more real and more like everything is connected, we're going to bring little tiny lines back and stuff like that. And I had completely forgotten this, but there's a moment in Infinity War where the thing that Wanda says to Vision when they're alone together there, and she says, "I can feel you." And then there's that moment where she is looking at his like lifeless body, and man, it really does just feel like you're just looking at like a thing now. Like Vision is so full of life, he is a living thing, and now you're looking at what is just Vision's face there, but like you can just tell there's like like that is a paperweight on that shelf right there. And she says, "I can't feel you," and man, thinking about that, it just hits so hard. I will say the one small complaint I have is that when she's there with General What's-His-Face, he says, "We can't just hand him back over to the one person online who has the power to like bring him back online." And I was like, how do you know she has the power to bring him back online? Like, up until this point, her powers have been, I can move things and I can read minds. That wouldn't tie into this at all. And I think it's just kind of poor writing. I don't think that, like, the only explanation is he knows more than he's laying on.
Yeah. But
I don't think he does. I think it was just kind of like poor writing on that moment. But that's like the one line that kind of stands out to me like a sore thumb. Like it's, I think that was kind of lazy. But everything else in that is so good. I do love that they bring back around the whole, like, they had to spend 2 days staring at a Stark bomb that they were wondering if it was going to go off, which listen, Age of Ultron is a mess, but it's got some really good things in there. And that backstory of like, yeah, we spent 2 days staring at a bomb, like, I forgot how good that was. And I love that they brought that back around and they use it as like an explanation of her powers. That was her first moment of like, she cast a probability spell on it. But then we see like her with Hydra, and I love that like that Agnes is actually now I don't know what to call her, Agatha. I love that Agatha was actually like, "So you decided to join a terrorist group?" And she was like, "We were going to change the world." And it's like, yeah, that's how a lot of people feel when they join these groups, is that they actually like think themselves. They've been through so many things that they've convinced themselves we're actually the good guys here because we're going to change this really broken world because I've lived through a really broken world. And that shot of her walking in there, like just how like beaten down she looked in that moment. Like she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. She hadn't slept in days. Like you can only imagine everything she's been through when she came walking through that door. And you just get that feeling of desperation of where she is in her life right now. But she touches the stone, and you actually get a look at her in the Scarlet Witch outfit. Like, she's got the crown on. She's got, like, I've seen people online take that image and, like, high-res the crap out of it to be able to, like, really see the costume. It's a good-looking costume, and I'm hoping that she actually gets that, because apparently from what I heard is that Elizabeth Olsen actually wanted to wear a Scarlet Witch outfit, but they were like, no, no, you got me dressed like a Hot Topic employee. We're not going to. No, we're not going to actually put you in the costume. So I'm hoping she actually finally gets the costume. She finally gets the name at the end of this episode. But yeah, we're mostly just talking about like all the trauma that she's been through. I will say they didn't bring up the Nexus, and I'm very curious about why that didn't get covered in all this, unless maybe Wanda herself doesn't know what it is, because we've been assuming that Wanda's been behind all the TV world, but maybe the commercials are not her, because I keep coming back to the Yo Magic commercial.
Yeah. And that you say like that's like Agatha, like
yeah, we kept trying to figure out, like I kept thinking, like, again, I thought that was maybe Mephisto, because it's like it felt like someone offering her a deal of some sort, and like the exact line, "I snack on Yo Magic," like I eat your magic is what they're saying. But Wanda doesn't know she has magic, so that commercial wasn't her. Like even if we're saying it's her subconscious, she doesn't know that she has magic on any level. So even her subconscious wouldn't create that. So maybe Agnes is creating the commercials, because then that would maybe explain the Nexus in there. But that's the thing that, again, I'm really intrigued by that, because the Nexus is like the crossway of all dimensions, and we know that she's going to appear in the alternate reality Doctor Strange movie going on. So it's like, okay.
Okay, but like, here's the thing. Like, in the very beginning, we actually like get a flashback of Agnes.
Yes.
And she was in a swamp.
Oh shoot! You're right. She was.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe Agatha does know about the Nexus.
There's still things that have not been revealed, and like we said, they're going to appear in the Doctor Strange alternate reality movie. If at the end of the next episode we still don't have answers to what the Nexus is, that could all be, like, this is the MCU. You know how this works by now. Things introduced in one thing could just be a thing set up for episode, for like way in the future. Like, freaking Wakanda was mentioned, like, what, like 5 movies before Black Panther? Like, yeah, it's, they can, they love to come in here and just drop like one name. It's like, oh, we'll get to that. So that's absolutely what they could be doing with the Nexus. But yeah, as far as the flashbacks go, aside from just talking about like how deep it is, like how emotional it is, I don't really have anything else to say, because we're not in Theory Town anymore. These are answers. But I will say, like, at the end, we see her go to Westview. We see her like find the house that Vision bought for them to grow old together in. And man, like, listen, I'll be real with you. I do have like that thought in my head of like, when exactly could that have happened? Like, when in the timeline would this have possibly happened? Because they were on the run after Civil War. So did he buy it while they were on the run? I don't know. Like, I will admit, I do have that thought in my head, like, well, when exactly would this have happened? But it's like, ignore that shit.
It's like,
it's a good moment. The good moment trumps any, like, well, what would have happened? No.
Here's what I believe. Is like, I believe he wanted to like surprise Wanda with the house, but like she fought. So like after like, you know, his death, she finds like the plans and everything.
Oh, I agree with that, but still, when would he have bought it?
That's true.
That's my question. Is like, I fully believe that she found this. Like,
although, like, the Vision is like a supercomputer. So.
He could have done this all on his. Yeah, you're right. It could have just been on like it could have been while they were on the run. It absolutely could have been. Like, I'm not saying it couldn't have happened. You're right. He could absolutely still have done multiple things at once. Like, he could have gone online in his mind and cashed in his GameStop's credentials and stocks. Sorry, like, did I mention it's been a long day for us over here? But yeah, he could absolutely have gotten this done, like, while they were on the run. You're right about that. So yeah, and that was like the last straw. It was like, I do get the feeling, like we said, like, she had never even seen this until this moment. This was probably like in his will for this to be handed over to her. And I mean, he died and then she was bamfed out of existence for 5 years and then she came back. So this is probably the first chance she's actually had to go and see this thing. She went to this place, saw it, saw the message from him, and that just caused her to collapse. Like, she couldn't handle this anymore. And again, I saw like one person out there who was trying to argue with me that like, no, this is a boring thing, that it wasn't Mephisto. I was like, shut up. I'm sorry, this is coming from the guy who's been theorizing about whether or not this is Mephisto, Nightmare, Mojo, Grim Reaper, like all this. I've been theorizing about this for 7 episodes now. I am telling you now, this is so much better. Because this is a real thing. This is actual drama. This is actual human emotions exploding out there, because yes, the point of this story is the story of someone dealing with grief, of loss, of trauma. That's what this story is about, and that is so much more important, and that's so much bigger than just random supervillain appears and you have to punch him. And at the end of this episode, we might still get random supervillain that they have to punch. So you might still get your cake and eat it too on that one. But this, the actual explanation of why this town was created, of how we got to this point, it is so much more important. It's making big, important messages, but also it's such richer character development and character exploration in here. This is incredible what happened in this episode, and it's so bold that they didn't just have it be a supervillain. Not just because, A, it means that we have to actually like stop and go, oh, sometimes there's nothing to fight. Sometimes
sometimes the fight is inside you.
Yourself, yeah.
Like,
sometimes
your inner demons, like
sometimes there's just horrible things that happen in life, and you can't fight that away. You have to like just face that, and somebody can't always face that, and that's not their fault. It's just that someone has lived an entire life of this. No one person can take that much trauma, which that's one of the things I love about Monica in here. Monica's entire thing has been, she has been through something terrible. I have been through something terrible. I understand that. She needs help. She doesn't need force. She needs someone to go in there and try and help her. And
she needs someone who can empathize with her.
And all this stuff is so much more important than we punched a supervillain. It's so freaking good. Now, that being said, I should also point out that the only reason why this is so bold is that it means that at the end of this, I'm sure they're going to free the entire town. I'm sure that at the end of this, the entire town is going to be safe. They're all going to return to normal. But that doesn't mean Wanda can then go up to them and say, it's okay, everyone. You are all under the control of this demon called Mephisto, but I saved the day. I stopped the evil monster. Oh, thank you, Scarlet Witch, for doing that. No. At the end of all this, Wanda is going to have to face all those people and go, I actually did a really terrible thing. I'm sorry. And I don't know how, what am I going to do that's going to make it up to you guys? I kidnapped all of you and forced you to, act as puppets. I just tortured all of you for 2 weeks. What am I going to do? I can't, I'm sorry, there's no apology in the world big enough for that. That's a big thing to do in your superhero thing. I made a comment on Twitter and somebody responded to that by saying, they felt it was kind of sexist that people couldn't grasp that this was Scarlet Witch, that this was just Wanda, or that this was Agatha. And, they thought it was kind of sexist because people were like, oh, well, it has to be Mephisto, it has to be Grim Reaper, it has to be Nightmare, it has to be one of these male characters. It can't possibly be one of those. There's a lot of sexism out there, I fully understand. That's not what this is. I don't think so.
No.
It's that you have a superhero here. They're not going to come in here and say the superhero kidnapped and tortured people for 2 weeks straight. That is not something that a superhero can recover from. That's I cannot blame people out there for looking at this going, Wanda's gotta be, Wanda can't possibly have done this to people. No. This is an evil, horrible thing. It has to be a villain that did all of this. So I understand people saying that.
Yeah, it's easy to blame things on a bad person.
Yeah.
But sometimes there is no bad person to blame it on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is a perfect way to sum this up. It is easy to blame the villain. It's really hard for audiences out there to look at the hero that we've been following and sympathizing with and going, oh, they did this. That's really hard to deal with. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Plus, also, this is the MCU. We literally spent 7 years going, that big purple dude who grinned, that's gotta be a thing, everybody. And did they mention this thing? You know that's gotta be a thing. You saw people lose their freaking minds when the Mandarin didn't turn out to be a dude with 10 rings and an entire crime syndicate around him. Yeah, man, people, we have been built from the MCU to go, oh, that's gotta be a thing. And this is a show coming in here and going, no, sometimes you just gotta deal with things. Yeah, there's two different reasons why people kept theorizing. One is the MCU has kind of trained them to theorize that, and secondly, it's because this entire show is about trauma and depression, is what it's about. And I have known a lot of people with depression in my life, and I've seen a lot of people around those people with depression not be able to grasp that they have depression, because that is a really hard thing for some people to be able to wrap their heads around. And that's what this entire show is that she did all this because of the trauma that she has endured, and a lot of people out there who have not endured similar things, they can't really grasp that a person would reach those limits, that something like that would happen, especially when this is a superhero property and we're watching a superhero. It is really hard for audiences to look at something like this and go, oh, so they did, oh. But they're the good person. It's yeah, this is one of the things the show's trying to say. It's sometimes good people break. That's what this is.
That's pretty much like Tony Stark for you.
Yeah.
He's done some horrible shit, but a lot of people consider him to be a hero.
But he made quirks, and that was, but he built an Iron Man suit out of that. Everybody's it's man, you're making me think of Iron Man 3 again. Like I made that comment about the Mandarin in there, but it's like, yeah, there's some really interesting stuff that they do with Tony Stark in there. I do kind of feel like...
Also, Spider-Man Far From Home, like, the whole villain was, like, one of the people that Tony Stark stepped on his way to the top.
It's really hard for a lot of people out there to kind of, like, go, like, oh, yeah, no, they still, like I said, that was one of the things I loved about Mysterio so much, is that they came in here and they went, Tony Stark didn't make up for all the horrible shit he did. You know that, right? Just because he built an Iron Man suit. Like, I kind of dig that. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, the MCU, it's, it never gets dark or anything. It's like, just because there's a joke thrown around doesn't mean it doesn't actually make, like, really big comments about these characters or anything like that.
Like, the MCU gets dark on, like, a psychological level.
You have to actually watch the movies, not just look at the color palette.
Yes, or someone screaming curse words or punching, like...
How much of this episode am I going to have to bleep out? I really am probably going to have to bleep out a lot of this. Anywho, but... We've been talking this entire time about how it's like, well, yeah, sometimes there just isn't a big monster to punch. At the end of this, they give us a big monster to punch, but the big monster to punch looks like it's the perfect big monster to punch. This is so, oh my god. I have seen so many writers out there go, well, I am going to just completely break this character by having terrible things happen to them. And there's always that thing that they throw in there that feels like it's just too many things. Like the Invincible cartoon is going to be starting up on Amazon, and we're going to be doing the same thing for the Invincible show, which is going to be easier because that show is like an hour long, I think, each episode. But we're going to be doing that for the Invincible, and I loved Invincible. It was one of my favorite books out there for so long, and then there came a moment in which I turned off on it hard. I stopped reading it hard because there came a storyline where Robert Kirkman said he just wanted to have one terrible thing happen to a character after another, and then he threw in one extra thing, and it was so horrible, and it came almost out of nowhere. And he even said in an interview, yeah, I wanted to really have the worst things happen to him that I can think of. And it just felt like he took such a really serious thing and just threw it in there because, like, yeah, let's just dump another thing in there. And I hated it so bad. This, we have seen so many things happen to Wanda, but they have been building up. They have all been leading to a moment. And the thing that gets thrown in at the end of this episode, I'm like, that is the absolute perfect thing that you could throw in as one final thing to really mess with Wanda.
Yeah, the straw that breaks the camel's back.
No, the thing that she opened up there in Westview is the thing that broke her back.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the thing that's going to come in here and just, like, trample on your back. Like, because Wanda is still, like, it's not like she has recovered from that.
No.
Like, she goes through this entire psychological thing that happens to her. Like, she goes through this entire therapy session with Agatha, which, by the way, I'm really enjoying Agatha right now because I know we got the "It Was Agatha All Along" song, but I still, in my mind, am like, I don't know what Agatha is. I don't mean, like, I know she's a witch, but is she good or is she bad?
What's her alliance? Because why is she doing this?
Because, yeah, this thing opens up with her killing off a bunch of other witches, but we don't know the reason why they were attacking her. We don't know the forbidden thing that she did, and that was 400 years ago. We don't know what's happened to her in this time. And we do see her coming in here, and it seems like from that setup that she wants Wanda's power. She really wants Wanda's power, but at the end of it, she goes, no, I've seen enough. I know what you are. You've been prophesized. You're the Scarlet Witch. And it makes it seem like she doesn't want Scarlet Witch's powers. She's like, no, no, no. I have always heard about this story. The reason why I want to know how you did this is to know if you're the Scarlet Witch, because the Scarlet Witch has to be stopped.
I think the reason why she was trying to, like, learn forbidden knowledge is to stop the Scarlet Witch.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally seems like that's a possibility. But yeah, it seems almost like Agatha, and again, this could just be the comic book side of me, because I know that in the comics, Agatha, she has been villainous sometimes, but the vast majority of the time she's on the side of the good guys, and she has helped train Wanda. I'm looking at where they are at the end of this, and yeah, the beginning is so clearly like, oh, she's the villain, but at the end of this is like, it almost feels like through that therapy session she was trying to force Wanda to accept what had happened to her, almost like she's trying to help Wanda in some way. And that does kind of feel in line with Agatha in the comics. She is, in a way, training Wanda in this moment. And I know that, again, you're going to say, but at the end of this, she was keeping Wanda's kids kidnapped, and she was strangling them up, and, like, Wanda wanted her kids back. Those kids are not real. You have to get the Young Avengers storyline out of your minds from the comics, and you have to think about what is going on right now. Those children are not real. They are creations from Wanda. They are magic. They are basically an imaginary friend that Wanda has created to help her get through her trauma. and she is torturing an entire town of people because she refuses to let go of the imaginary friend she just created. What she is doing there at the end, it is really easy to look at Agatha and go, she's like keeping those kids kidnapped and she's going to kill those kids. The kids aren't real. She's not trying to kill the kids. She's trying to force Wanda to say, these kids are not real. I'm sorry that I just spit everywhere. She's trying to force Wanda to say, these kids are not real. You have to accept that. You have to let the town go. That could totally be what she's trying to do. And yeah, Wanda needs to let those kids go. Yeah. They're not real.
Like even the Vision himself is like her creation.
Yeah, which is a very interesting thing.
Yes.
It makes me, I said I wanted to come back to this. Thank you for bringing that up. That moment in which he is getting out of Westview. And we see the chips of him flying back in there. I kept looking at it going, what is up with that? Because, I mean, yeah, I can understand him dropping dead when he's out here, but why are chips of him flying back in there? Because he can't exist outside Westview. He is purely made up of magic. Yeah, I love that, looking back at that. I really do want to kind of go back and watch the entire series before we get to the finale next week, just to see, like, what comes to mind now. Sorry, I got too excited, I'm getting hiccups now. Yeah, so Agatha, I'm like, I still don't know if she's going to turn out to be good or bad in here. Because, again, it's so easy to look at how they set Agatha up and go, she's going to be a villain. But again, we don't know enough about Agatha. We don't know where she's coming from. We don't know what the prophecy of the Scarlet Witch is. We don't know, does Agatha actually want the power, or does she just want to find out she's the Scarlet Witch to try and stop her? We don't know what's going on here. And again, like, you know, you look at it, it's like, oh, she's trying to kill the kids there at the end. She has to force Wanda to give up the kids because they're not real in order to save everyone in this town. In order to get, like, a person with the power to reshape reality right now is incredibly unstable. Her going out there and screaming to get her kids back, that is a sign of her being unstable because those kids aren't real. They're like 2 days old. They're a thing that Wanda created. And she has to force Wanda to accept this stuff. If she's going to, she has to force Wanda to face reality, is what it is. In order to free this town, in order to keep Wanda from, you know, listen, Wanda has not faced the terrible things that she's done, and what happened? The town expanded, and now it's all starting to collapse in on itself. So
it's like, I'm thinking like Monica and like Agnes are gonna like team up to help.
That brings me back to what happened to Monica at the end of the previous episode when Pietro shows up. Okay, so we now know that Pietro was created 100% by Agatha, which I do. Again, it hurts a little bit that the explanation for why it looks different is just like, yeah, it's necromancy. I had to bring a dead body back from life, which I don't think they did this on purpose, but I do kind of like the fact that it's like, I had to bring something dead back to life. It's a Fox character. I kind of like, I don't think that was intentional, but I kind of dig that that's them sort of going like, yeah, the Fox's mutants are dead. They're dead and gone. Deal with it, everybody.
Well, she explains like his body is all the way on the other side of the world.
That's why she explained why she didn't bring his body.
Yeah,
back. Like,
exactly.
He's on the other side of the world and covered in bullet holes. Like she had to get something fresh. So yeah, I do dig that. I enjoy that. I do dig that little bit of the explanation, but it does kind of bum me out that it's like, oh, so it's not connected in any way to the Fox stuff. Oh, well, that's kind of, it's a little bit disappointing, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. You can let that go. It's fine. Like I said, my one big disappointment was going to be if there's no explanation for it. But you know what? Actually seeing that there's no explanation for it, I'm like, I can live with that. Like, it's still a little disappointing, but I can get over it.
We have more important things to worry about.
But yeah, at the end of the previous episode, Pietro shows up. He shows up with, as Monica is about to go there into the big spooky basement, and we're like, okay, if he's, and the explanation that we had was, if he is a creation of Wanda's subconscious, and he's there to try and help Wanda, maybe he'll help Monica. If he actually is created by Agatha, or at the time we were saying Mephisto, he'll try and stop Monica. But now that we know that he's a creation of Agatha's, like 100% we're sure of that, maybe he is still going to try and help Monica. Because again, we don't know what side Agatha is on right now. It's so easy, it really does seem like they're setting up to be the villain, but that could totally be a turnaround in here. So maybe at the end to realize that's like, no, don't go in there, trust me, I'm working with the lady that's in there. She needs to let this all play out. And now, like, they actually are working together in this. So yeah, I do definitely want to see like what kind of goes on with that, and I do also enjoy it. Like we said, this entire thing is about dealing with loss. It's about dealing with grief. It's about dealing with trauma, and there's no one correct way to go about that. And one thing that I enjoy is that every single character in here is trying to address that in Wanda in a different way. Like we saw how Vision helped her with that after Pietro, but right now you got Monica who wants to go in there and say like, listen, I understand what you're going through. I'm going to try and connect with you on some level. And then you got Agatha who's like, you need to face what's going on. These kids aren't real, Wanda. You need to deal with this. I do, and again, that's me kind of assuming that Agatha is like the good person, is like a good character in here, but I do enjoy that, like, again, when it comes to trauma, there's no one way to deal with it, but there are multiple ways to deal with it, and I enjoy that every single character is kind of playing into that in some way, shape, or form. Okay, we should probably talk about this now. At the end of this, the big mid-credit stinger, which I enjoy that when they finally hit the modern day, there are mid-credit stingers again, like with any Marvel thing. Mm-hmm. I kind of dug that. Now, like, we kind of like progress, and the moment we got to modern day, that's when the mid-credits start up. The mid-credit stinger is that General, what's his name? We were so caught up in this that, like, when we find out that Wanda didn't actually take his bite, and that Vision was a creation of Wanda within this reality, I had that thought in the back of my head, like, huh, so what happened to the Vision's bite? But I didn't stop to focus on it too much, simply because I was so invested in what was going on in front of me. But I did have that, like, brief thought, like, huh, so where is the Vision? And then he pops up at the end. And for anybody who's a comic fan, it's the white Vision armor from the late 80s, early 90s, which I always hated that outfit because it just felt so alien. It felt like so unnatural. But in here, that's the point of it. Yes. It's supposed to look like he's soulless. And I love it. I think it was great. I think that, like, I've seen some people say, like, yeah, he kind of looks freaky. You should. You should not be looking at this one wanting to bond with this character. Like, yeah, you should look at this guy and think he's freaky. And it's a great reference to the comics in there. But he appears, and they're going to send him in there. Man, you talk about the perfect thing to mess with Wanda. It's so good. And
yeah, it's like fake Vision who's good and real Vision who's turned bad. It's like, oh shit, what do I do?
Like I said, you want the perfect, like, one more thing to throw in here to, like, raise, to, like, the stakes are already up here. You want that last thing that's just going to shoot it through the roof? Holy cow. This is, like, stomach sinking looking at that scene of, I have no idea how much this could mess with Wanda. I have no idea.
Yeah, you were literally saying, I don't know how they're gonna wrap all of this up in just like...
In like half an hour? How the hell is that gonna happen?
And it's funny, because like a few episodes back, you're like, how are they gonna extend this for like 3 more episodes?
You're right, I did do that. I did totally say that. Yeah. Holy cow. Woo, boy. Man, this is a good show, everybody. Yeah, I think this is like the best episode they've done so far, but yeah, time to get into crazy theory time on this. If there is one thing that they could do that would make me lose my freaking mind in the next episode, have Vision go in there, have, like, you know, have White Vision go in there, and he goes in there, bad stuff starts happening, like, you know, this is all going to come down to, like, Wanda not wanting to fight back against Vision, and then she has to fight back against him and destroy him in order, like, as her way of, like, getting over what's happened to her. As her way, not getting over it, but, like, accepting it. Accepting that the way that she's going to this is what I'm going to say is going to happen. I'm going to say that she's going to get into a fight with the Vision. The Vision is going to, like, be, like, tossing her around because she's going to refuse to fight back. And she's going to have to accept Vision is gone. This isn't him. You can't bring him back. There's some things you can't do. And that will, and she's going to then, like, you know, disintegrate him. And that will be her way of, like, accepting.
And maybe she'll bury the ashes.
Maybe she'll bury oh, yeah. That would actually be pretty good. But yeah, I think that will be, like, what she has to do. Like, that will be her big metaphorical, I now have accepted he's gone moment. She has to get rid of him herself. But this is the thing that would make me lose my mind. If Vision goes in there and Wanda's trying to reach out to him, and then all of a sudden, like, you just cut to, like, the sword guys in there, like, programming him. Like, oh, that's weird. I didn't program him to do that. And, like, I'm getting locked out. Someone's locking me out. I can't I can't
like
get in
White
here.
Vision like has like starts like
You start seeing him like glitch a little bit, and then all of a sudden, like on the computer screen that they're controlling Vision, you just see the big Ultron face pop up, and then like inside Westview in the middle of the fight, you just see like she's reaching out to him, trying to connect with him, trying to get to his inner self. And you see him like, what's happening? And then he just looks up and smiles, and then you hear Ultron's voice come out of his throat. You see like the red eyes beaming out, because Ultron is my favorite comic book villain of all time, like hands down. And I think that Ultron in the movie was all right. I enjoyed him. I thought it was good, but he's not quite Ultron. And my absolute favorite thing about Ultron is, and this is like the reason why he's probably my favorite, is that he's always that guy who keeps coming back. And I know that's comics, so everybody keeps coming back. You kill someone off, they come back to life. But Ultron's entire thing is, okay, we killed this version. Oh, he had a duplicate body stored in a bunker somewhere, and he came back. Oh, well, we have now destroyed every Ultron on Earth. Oh, he had one in space. Okay, well, now we've injected him with a virus that has completely wiped out every trace of him. Oh, wait, now he is the virus, and now he's inside of another machine. Okay, well, we're just gonna go into the future to find an answer to this. Oh, the entire future is run by Ultron. Like, that's the thing that I always liked about him. And they did play that up in the movie. In the movie, they're like, we have to destroy every single Ultron, otherwise he can come back just as strong as ever. But in here, they're like, your brother was killed by Ultron. This happened with Ultron. This happened with Ultron. In the previous episode, when Vision was trying to like fully remember his past and everything that happened to him, he was like, so I originally started out as one part in an AI program called Jarvis, but also has data created by Ultron. They made sure to remind the audience, I got part of Ultron inside me. I would lose my mind if that was their way of bringing Ultron back into the MCU, is that they say like, yeah, he was dead and gone, but y'all just had to mess with Vision. And now Ultron is back in some way, shape, or form. Because yeah, Ultron is that guy. The entire thing that makes him so cool is that he just keeps coming back over and over again. He's like a cockroach. And yeah, I would lose my mind. Like, I'm not saying you gotta make him be the villain of another movie. I don't even say you gotta put him in here somewhere else down the road. But just give me like I said, the entire thing about Ultron is he comes back, he has to come back at least once. And apparently, someone online did tell me that apparently the actor who played Ultron is listed in the credits. And we haven't seen him yet, and there's one more episode. I would bet money that this is probably going to happen, and I would lose my mind. Like, I would love it if that's how this went down. Because, yeah, we did get and also, like, for anybody out there who's like, well, you know, a big superhero fight there at the end, like, it would be like, it would kind of take away from the importance of all the other stuff. I think we've gotten the importance. We've gotten it. Like, I'm not saying like, okay, you were good. Now give us the superhero fight. What I'm saying is there is nothing they could do in that final episode that would take away. That was the dog sneezing down there, by the way. What I am saying is there is nothing you could do in that final episode that would take away from all the good that has already been accomplished in the series. You could have anybody come back and like you could just completely like this could be like a Thor 2 level of disaster in the final episode. All that other good stuff still happened, and there's no taking that away. They have firmly established that in here. Yeah, and like I said, even if it's a big superhero fight, it's the perfect big supervillain to throw in here to really mess with them. And man, yeah, I'm like getting tingly thinking about the idea of, oh my god, they might bring Ultron back. Oh, it could happen. It could absolutely happen. I'm so excited about it. Oh, I really want that to happen. Yeah, I would lose my mind, like flat out. Yeah, I think I'm saying that, like, man, I love that I kept feeling like, okay, maybe it's Mephisto, maybe it's Nightmare, and then we had this whole theory about how the General What's-His-Face is actually Grim Reaper, or maybe he's going to turn into Grim Reaper at some point in this whole thing. I would never have guessed, oh man, maybe Ultron is going to be a villain at the end of all of this. And I'm just like, I'm putting on like the bib and getting like the whole, like the fork and the knife in there. Bib's got Ultron on the face, like, yeah, I am lying up and ready to eat at this thing. But even if it's not, like I said, there's no way, there is literally nothing they can do in the final episode to make this show bad. They could have a bad ending, but the rest of the show will be so good, it will all been worth it. And I remember there was that one point in time, which I don't know if it was you, I don't know if it was someone else, but you mentioned like, yeah, what are they going to do in season 2? I was like, I don't think there's going to be a season 2. No. All these Marvel shows are one and done. after the success of this thing, after the critical praise, and how many people have watched it, and how many people are now like flat out Wanda and Vision stans. Like how many people went from like, I guess they're strong and that's about it in the movies, to like, these are the greatest characters the MCU have ever created. I would be stunned if there was not a season 2, especially when you consider the fact that there is no way that the end of the next episode, Wanda is going to go and everything is resolved. No. She kidnapped and tortured an entire town. Even if she accepts that Vision is dead and that those kids aren't real, there's a lot of stuff in here that she still has to deal with. And Agatha, you introduce all that stuff with Agatha in the final episode, there's no way. There's no way that introducing all that stuff with Agatha in 2 episodes, you're going to be able to get really all that deep in her. There's still so many things that you could do in a season 2, and I'm hoping we get a season 2.
It's like, I'm imagining just like Agatha taking like Wanda into the woods and training her.
Yeah. I could totally see them doing that, but I mean, there's so many things that... You want to come in the lap? You kind of feel like you want to... Clip it. Okay. There you go. I got the bigger lap so you can, like, fully lay down. Yes, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that they could do. Like I said, okay, so the gerbil guy is not Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper exists and he's still a big deal for Wanda and Vision. Agatha, yeah, the whole train of her. The High Evolutionary, who was a big part of Wanda's backstory. Yeah, like you could totally go into him in there. There's a lot of things that you could do in a season 2, and like we said, like I'm just pulling stuff from the comics. Just talking about what's going on in this series. There's stuff you need to bring up about what she did, all the trauma she's experienced. And I was thinking about this. I mentioned on Twitter this morning that this show makes Age of Ultron better. Because there are so many things in Age of Ultron that I really enjoy, but there's other things in here that are pretty bad. So overall, it's kind of a mess that's all over the place. Mm-hmm. I keep thinking I would pay money. I would double the price of my Disney Plus subscription if the showrunner and the writers of WandaVision just remade Age of Ultron. But I understand, like, you're not going to do that. I understand you're not going to do that. So this is what I would love to happen. I would love for a season 2.
Age of Ultron as seen in WandaVision.
Yes! 100%. That is what I would love for WandaVision Season 2. Half of WandaVision Season 2 is set in the present. And it's Agatha training her. It's, you know, maybe bring in there the High Evolutionary, bring in there the Grim Reaper, bring in there all these other things you could bring in. But also, bring up, like I've mentioned this many times before, the kids are not real. But what ends up happening in the comics is that Wanda does sort of create magical souls that are a combination of her and Vision's souls. And after, like, everything is dispersed, they do kind of have to find a new home, so they do go into these 2 twins, and they gain magic and super speed powers. And I would really enjoy if, like, Season 2, maybe it wasn't the entire purpose of Season 2, but at some point, like, towards the end of Season 2, like, Agatha brings up, like, I think those, like, the magical creations that you made in there of your children, they might actually exist somewhere in the world. Their essence might have gone somewhere.
And so they bring up the Nexus.
And then, like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because it's like...
oh, maybe they went into the Nexus, which would be why she would go to Doctor Strange and be like, there's something in that portal, and you gotta help me. You're the big magic guy. Yeah. So, yeah, oh, man. That could, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, because it's like... they mention it in a commercial in the show, so it's like...
it has to be something.
It has to be something.
But yeah, so there's so many things that you could do. So half of next season, I would love it if there is a next season, and I want there to be a next season. But half of next season, I would love it if it was in the present, dealing with the fallout of this season, but also bringing up, you know, some other elements from the comics and stuff. But then the other half is just retelling Age of Ultron from the point of view of Wanda. Not the entire thing, just like a flashback to like, oh, here's what she did like when she was in the Hydra base and they called and told her that the Avengers were attacking and what she had to do there. Here is her when she meets up with these characters. Here's what happens there. Because I have said this many times that Age of Ultron, you know, we've mentioned the problems with it, but one of the problems is that it moves way too fast. Mm-hmm. And there's really good character stuff that should be happening in there, and there's like, we don't have any time for that. Mm-hmm. There's no time at all. And I've brought this up many times. Wanda Maximoff blamed Tony Stark because Stark bombs killed her parents, and then she and her brother stared at a Stark bomb for 2 days wondering if it would kill them. And then she meets Tony Stark. And they have like no words. There's like no exchange, no nothing, like no like sit down, I need to talk to you about this. I think Robert Downey Jr. would totally be on board for, yeah, I'll be in an episode of this. I'll come back for an episode. Sure, why not? And have a flashback of that. Because I keep thinking about that moment of Vision going into Wanda's room a few days after her brother died and having that conversation and just being like, this is such an important thing. It's so, like, emotional. It's so deep and it's such a great character moment that should exist. But because, you know, we can't, like, really focus on that stuff, we gotta keep these franchises moving, we didn't really get that. I would love it if they came in here and just filled in the gaps of some of the big stuff that would have made Age of Ultron better. With flashbacks in the next season. I can't believe that I went from going like, yeah, there's not going to be a season 2. It's, you know, these are all one and done to be like, I want there to be a season 2, and there's so many things you could do. Because, you know, at the beginning of this, when we were watching this season, not only did I say, like, yeah, there'll probably be one done, I was like, they're not going to, like, how do you even extend this thing? How do you, like, what, is he going to, like, recreate the TV world or anything? It's like, oh, there's thousands of things you can do now. Whew. I think that's about everything. We got like 1 week off in between this and when Falcon Winter Soldier starts up. And I'm going to need that time to rest my throat. Of course, then again, I think that's the week in which Invincible starts up, so who knows? Who knows, everybody? And then sometime in there, Kong and Godzilla gets released.
And then there's Raya and the Last Dragon.
That was it. Yeah, I knew there was another thing. That'll be coming out. Oh my god. Disney Plus now has the machine going. Because I realized, oh my god, that releases the week that WandaVision doesn't come out. That releases the week after WandaVision is done, and the week before Falcon and Winter Soldier. Disney Plus now has the machine. They've now got that you come back every week. We didn't say you could leave. Oh my god.
Remember, you're here forever.
Just replace it with Wanda. Do it for her. Oh god. So, I feel so bad for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I've been to this many times before, but I was like, that was supposed to be the first one, but COVID pushed them back, and WandaVision was already in the can, so we were like, alright, just put that one up first. And now I'm like, oh, Falcon and Winter Soldier is supposed to be like, we're like an MCU movie, so we're just gonna kind of like lean in, like, it's gonna feel like an MCU movie, but weekly. Just to kind of like ease the MCU fans and be like, maybe I'll watch a TV show. And now, like, the thing meant to ease them in is coming in after they threw us deep into that pool. But I don't know. They could get really deep on that shit. They could. Like I said, it's going to be based off of the comic. They got really political. So it's like, all right, Disney, how bold are you willing to get on this thing? Let's see. But yeah, that's it. Come back next Monday when we talk about the big finale. Holy cow. Have I mentioned this is the third thing we filmed today? Bye, everybody.
Bye.